seat. Okay. Hold on a minute.
No, keep talking.
Keep talking. Yeah, we are.
This is what it was like when we were kids.
This is what it was like.
Except they didn't have that sound.
Yeah. And we're standing here at 301 East 75th Street.
75th Street and 2nd Avenue, right at the corner.
Yeah. And it has completely changed from when Alan and I lived here.
So completely changed that even Alan's name has changed.
That's right. Right. But we grew up here in the late 30s. And we lived here through 1946, and then we moved away. And so we're coming.
We began moving away.
We began.
Actually, I lived here till 1947 or 48.
Yeah, you lived.
Same neighborhood.
So,
but this neighborhood, some of it has changed drastically. Some of it hasn't changed at all. Like there's a building behind us that.
You could turn it off and turn it on again.
Right. Then it blew our minds. We had a friend of Frank's, actually, a girl who lived in there,
Zelda Kurtzman.
Right. Whose father owned the grocery store around the corner. She was the first person who lived in a really fancy building.
Yes.
And we lived, and there's a fancy building right where we're standing, and there's another one across the street. None of those were here when we were born and raised here.
Excuse me. Watch out, Michael. So, turn it off?
Yeah. Okay, now let's get the
301.
Yeah, but let's just follow us as we walk around.
Yeah,
Stand under that sign.
I told that.
We're
I
going to walk
think you'll
under
need to
that
project
sign.
your voice, like if you're talking to
Yeah,
a
I'm sort
large
of worried
group.
about
No, you'll hear it. You'll
The
hear
sound?
it. No, the sound is pretty good. You'll hear it.
All right.
But we're going to walk around and stand under that sign.
Yeah, but don't follow us, Joe. Don't follow us.
I don't have any mobility.
Fine. Don't follow us shooting. Wait till we get there because that never works out.
Yeah.
You
Grab us and
sure?
look at that screen.
Yeah. It doesn't look bad. Here, I'll let you hold this.
Okay, I want to
should go in
stand
your
right under
pocket.
here so we can get the number.
This guy's gonna be coming through.
Well, that'll stop
He's
it.
shooting on again.
Should he film here?
Okay, wait a minute, Mike. Wait a minute.
Continuously.
Yeah, this is
House we lived was 301 East 75th.
Was it a house though, or was it an apartment?
it was an apartment.
And we lived one flight up, and above us lived the crazy Bernstein. Nathan Jaime Bernstein.
Right, they have to be toilet trained.
Religious fanatic.
Right. They
What
were
happened
really.
before you moved here?
We lived in the Bronx, in a whole bunch of places that Frank remembers better than I do.
Yeah.
Because when we moved here, I could not have been more than about 6 years old, I think. Not much more than that, maybe less than that.
Okay, let's stop and we'll stop.
Now over here also,
Well, wait a minute.
behind
Okay,
us, too,
that we're facing down toward 3rd Avenue.
up towards Central Park.
Up towards Central Park, really. And we lived on the other side of that street. We'll go over there later on. But
the buildings on the left-hand side look exactly like when we were kids.
Yes,
They
the
haven't
fire
changed at all.
escapes.
All the
Fire
different
escapes,
colors
yeah.
also?
Different colors, yeah. Although then they were mostly red brick.
Yeah.
That big building, the second one from the corner, that was not there.
No.
But the building at the corner was an ice cream
It's
parlor.
an ice cream parlor.
An Italian ice cream parlor. And that hasn't changed at all. Down 2nd Avenue to the left was Dr. Jacobs drugstore.
Yes.
Minna, that was his daughter. Right. Dr. Jacobs' brother was Mama's physician.
Yes.
Wasn't that
yes,
it?
Yeah. Dr. J. Yeah, he lived on 79th Street.
Right, but that was Mama's doctor. That was our doctor, family.
Okay, stop, Michael.
It's where Pop's best store was. This is when he already began to make it in the
he
world.
was making it up in the
Because
world.
this was a corner store, and the corner stores were much more expensive than the stores in the middle of the avenue. He had a store originally in right just about the middle of this block.
But he wanted to get away from there because he had a competitor who was always underselling him.
Right.
That guy
There was a fruit stand over there.
Right.
And then he moved over here, and he had a big corner store here, which was really like one of the big stores in the
Right. He had made his mark in the community because during the Depression, when nobody could afford to buy anything, he gave people credit. He said, okay, I'll give you credit. When things get better, you'll pay me. And so he developed a very, very loyal clientele. And mostly Italians.
Germans.
Mostly Italians and Germans.
Yeah.
And they came and they bought ladies' clothing and men's clothing for the family. This was a family community.
Everything from socks to men's pants.
Right.
Yep.
I
The store
remember.
was the store was.
I remember I used to stand, used to have a
Yeah,
front.
we used to have a stand
front.
here. We used to have like merchandise on like boxes out in front.
And
Frank and I had the job of
Right.
watching to see
And
nobody stole from us.
Right, and he taught me some merchandising. He said, when a lady comes over and she wants large panties and you don't have large panties, put your hands inside them and stretch them. And that way, everything fits, you know?
He
What was
also
the name of the store?
Schaefer's.
Schaefer's. But what was he said to me once a woman came in and asked for black men's socks for like size 10. He didn't have any. So he took he took out a pair of dark gray. He said, "This is the darkest black I got." And she bought it. I figured he was a great salesman. But what was interesting about the neighborhood was on the street here, behind where you're filming from, there were push carts that lined the street here from 72nd Street down that way, all the way up to 79th Street. But just on this side of the street, just on one side of the street. And by push carts, I mean they sold fruit, vegetables, fish, horseradish, freshly ground horseradish.
Too. That was his first, in essence, his first store was a push cart.
His first store was a suitcase. That's he started selling things out of a suitcase in the early 1930s.
Very, very difficult time in the 30s. People were just coming out of the end of the Depression. There was some depression.
My mother's father would make camps at home, and Pop would go out the street to sell them from a suitcase, and then from a little stand, and then to a store in the middle of this block, and then to this store in the corner.
Yeah.
And this is where he
made
blew
his
it.
mark.
This is where he blew it.
Yeah.
But the neighborhood was wonderful because there were all these push carts, and as kids, we used to play on these streets. We knew everybody in the neighborhood. Everybody knew us. It was like living in a little town. We could walk into any store from about 74th Street to 78th Street, and everybody knew us, and we knew everybody.
Yeah.
So what special stories do you have to tell about the store, working in the store, besides
Well,
the
let's see.
merchandise?
We hated it.
We hated it. We were forced to work there when our friends were playing in the streets.
This was like chores, except you guys took out the garbage. We had to sit here and watch that nobody stole stuff, and sell things, and clean the stock. And we used to eat back at the store. There was a little like kitchen in back, and Pop used to feed us here because after our mother died in 1945, I guess it was, we used to almost live in the back of the store because remember these stores were open like from 8 o'clock in the morning till 11 o'clock at night. So when we got home from school, we would dump our stuff in home, do whatever homework, and then we had a responsibility to come down here and work in the store. And
And
Frank said,
it was a hard life.
our friends were out playing.
Yeah, we never really got any of the little luxuries. I really never got a gift from my
You got a bike.
but it was a stolen bike. We were convinced it was $10, and it was hard. I know it was a stolen
The
bike.
other thing, we had clear instructions. If the store caught fire, don't call the fire department.
Let it
Because-
burn.
Let it burn. Because the burning, the insurance would pay for it. You call the fire department, they'd steal everything.
That's
So
right.
we couldn't do that. If something got stolen, don't call the cops. Because whatever wasn't stolen, the cops would steal. So it gave us a very warped view of government services. Let's put it that way. What was also interesting, we were Jews living in a neighborhood where there were other Jewish people living in it. There was a synagogue, but not very many, very few.
And I
so,
think that
you want us to look
really-
at the camera or not?
Yeah, top of Larry.
So, well, then show Larry, because otherwise it looks like I'm talking into nothing. Or show Jane. But most of our friends
Watch
were
out,
Italian,
watch out, so
or,
when the cat, you have to aim the microphone if you want to pick us up.
right, Italian or Czechoslovak or German, and Jewish friends too, but not very many. I mean, we tended to hang out with the Jewish kids because that's when we went to synagogue with them. That was the other thing. We both had to go to shul on like almost every afternoon before we got bar mitzvah.
Yeah.
Because we had to learn enough Hebrew to read from the Torah. And the rabbis were all 95 years old, and their method of teaching was to beat the shit out of you.
I never learned.
Beat you up.
I never learned. When I had my bar mitzvah, my father mumbled the whole thing for me. I felt like a ventriloquist. I stood next to him, and he stood next to me, and the rabbi stood next to me, and they held me together, and and I was out.
But this was also 5 o'clock in the morning.
That's right, when nobody
This was
around.
not like today when it's like a big celebration and a big
5
party. Yes, it was at dawn.
early. It was early.
It was at
like
dawn.
they had a minion early in the morning.
Very early
No
in the morning.
crowd?
No. Whoever, just the old men.
No.
No.
I got an autograph from him.
The old and a pen.
And a pen.
I got his pen.
Yeah.
The old men who were there. who were there. But you got to remember, the one thing that you have to understand is when we lived here, my father, your grandfather, made a very good living out of this store.
If that light starts blinking, I'm out of
But
batteries.
my mother was an invalid. She was very sick. She had either heart disease or something, and a lot of the money that he made went into taking care of her, because in those days there was no medical insurance of any kind. So she had to go to Florida to convalesce. She was in nursing homes a lot, and it cost a fortune to keep her going.
Yeah.
But other than that, it's fine. Just private family stuff.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we're just
Nobody
reminiscing
famous.
about growing up.
This is Woody Allen, and
I knew that would happen at some point. I should have told this.
you should.
Let's stay out here.
Look over here. This is better.
Yeah.
Okay, are we filming?
Yep.
Okay. Right over here, about here.
Why don't we just move over here, then you don't have to stand under the canopy. Now you're
Okay.
Yeah.
It's raining.
Right over here to like Frank's left was a
Okay,
was
I'm going
Pop's,
to pan over
was Pop's first store.
where the Cafe de Cortina is.
Panning.
I'm panning.
Slow, move slow.
Slow, don't go fast.
You turn the boat, otherwise turn it on, Michael.
Otherwise people will throw up. Michael, go and get a full circle.
Okay.
Stay underneath the canopy, Michael.
He is.
Okay, to Frank's left, over this way, was Pop's first store on 2nd Avenue. I think, if I remember correctly, he sold from a suitcase at the corner
I don't remember.
before the
that, did he?
war. I think so.
Really?
And then he got an opening on a store, which was down over here. Next to the store was a fruit store. That I remember very well. And we lived at the corner of 301, and on this corner was Kurtzman's grocery store.
That's right. That's what we used to.
Right.
When I was in high school, groceries on credit.
Those are the people who lived in that building. In the middle of the block was a place called Zanos and Gavala's Greek olive oil store.
They sold olive oil.
They sell olive oil and olives.
Yes.
15 different kinds
Yes.
of olives.
That's all they sold.
None of which we ate, because
We didn't eat that
That was Chazarai.
But there was
Trade for
a
food.
non-kosher meat store next to that.
Yeah, that's
and
right.
Mom used to buy a lot of stuff.
Right, and a little grocery store.
Yeah.
Across the street over here, behind, right across where we're filming, was Lobaglio's grocery store. That was an Italian grocery. And at the off the corner over there was Joe's barber shop.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
And down the street was the 2nd Avenue L, the elevator train.
What was
Joe's was the barber shop and the bookie
local
joint,
the local
bookie. Italian, very nice people, very
What was
nice
the
people.
story you were talking about last night?
About singeing hair, that's too,
Well, now,
too
what
complex.
about your mother?
But we used to get used to play the numbers there, but you also bet the horses there in bat. And
First off-track betting.
yeah, sort of. It was a neighborhood bookie. But I mean, everybody knew him, and the cops knew him, and there was no problem with.
Well, wait a
with that. It
second.
was
What
considered-
intrigued me is your mother didn't buy kosher food.
No, we didn't.
No.
No, we didn't. We were not really religious. I mean, we went to the synagogue because it was the proper thing for a Jew to do, but not for religious reasons.
Yeah, we went on High Holy Day.
Yeah.
We went up to Fifth Avenue to the temple.
Sometimes, yeah.
Sometimes.
Speak
yeah.
up.
But mostly we went to the synagogue around the corner on 77th Street. That's what we were about next to. There were two synagogues. There was one on 78th Street and
Yes.
77th Street.
Yes.
We went first to the one on 77th, and then we switched over with the Galadnas. Remember the Galadnas?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Fat
Yeah.
little Mr. Galadna. And we went to that synagogue because that was a more upper class synagogue. But we were not religious. I mean, so we didn't keep kosher in the house or light candles or any of that. That stuff. It was just important to go to synagogue because you were supposed to do that. But after we both turned 13, I don't think either one of us ever went back to the synagogue except for High Holy Days.
And honestly, well, yeah.
Yeah, because
maybe,
Pop wanted.
maybe, yes.
Yeah, but when we were old enough, I mean, we stopped. It was never really, being culturally Jewish was important to us. Knowing we were Jewish was important to us, but practicing the religion was never made important to us.
And probably even more so because we lived in a non-Jewish area.
Right.
And we lived in a Jewish ghetto.
It's probably different. Now, my grandfather was, from what I was told, was a religious Jew when he left Russia, but when he came here, he had to pay to go into the synagogue, and he never went back into a synagogue again.
Well, maybe we'll do that. We'll do that about the
We'll do that in the hotel.
We'll do that in the
That's right.
hotel.
Austin
Okay,
Adams
keep
worked
that over him now, really. Okay, you on again?
Okay, I'm going to pan around.
Okay, so
set
pan
the
around
scene
that way.
here.
Let's stand over here because this is more typical.
Yeah, this is what it really
Yeah.
looked like. This was not
Get over
here.
the get over the camera.
All right,
Okay.
wait a second. I'm going to set the scene before I pan.
This was where we lived after the, just about the end of the war and
Toward the end,
after the war.
toward the end of the
End of
war.
the war.
Well, we lived here in 1945, 46.
46.
46.
46
We moved here.
We
Yeah.
actually, no, wait. We lived.
This is a typical. This is 75th Street where we.
This is between
grew up,
2nd and 3rd Avenue.
where we live, and the houses with the fire escapes are the original houses. They're still here. In fact, there's that little gray house right before the red house. Somebody started remodeling that, bought it and remodeled it in 1946. You see what the right, but just,
Yeah.
and they spent some inordinate amount of money, like $15,000 then, and we couldn't understand why anybody would want to put their money into the stupid neighborhood. And it's still there, and it looks pretty good.
Now,
So,
you're gonna have to talk about behind us too.
well, behind us is where we lived. You'll see that soon.
Okay, Michael, come
Okay.
on. 46. My mother died in 1945, and that was a big apartment around the corner here on 2nd Avenue. And then we moved to a 1.5 room apartment in a new building, in a relatively new building.
Yes.
And it was just, first it was just Pop and me, because Frank was in the Army.
Right.
And then when Frank got out of the Army, about 4 months after you got out of the Army, you got married.
I got married.
And then we gave you the apartment we lived in, and we moved upstairs.
Right, and we lived here, Marilyn and I, Mom and I lived here from basically December 1946 to June 1950, or August 1950.
When you moved
and
to
then
California.
we moved to California. So I went to school here, went to NYU, and
What were your teachers like?
the teachers...
In
Teachers where, in
First of all,
elementary school?
Yeah, now before we went to college, of course, we went to a school right down the corner here.
PS 70.
PS
I
70.
thought it was right.
It was an elementary school.
It was
It
right-
was built in the 1860s, and it
This
had...
this is a school behind us, but this is not what it was like. It was an old, very old building with a schoolyard behind it on the other side of this big block. And it was nice. It was wonderful.
It was nice. In fact, it had some modern concepts. It had walls that moved. Remember?
Yeah, open. Yeah, they
so
could
when
change,
they wanted to have
they could
assembly,
slide things, right?
right?
Yeah, right.
And I still can remember the poems I learned. And the
Remember
songs we
Mrs.
sang.
You remember Mrs. Friedman, the teacher
Yes.
with the wooden leg?
Yes.
She used to kick students with the wooden leg when they got out of line.
And then there was Mrs. Christie.
Oh, Mrs. Christie, 6th grade, vicious
That's
teacher.
right, vicious teacher. Right.
Everybody hated
She
Mrs.
sat
Christie.
everybody in terms of their ability, from dumb to smart.
But
And
there was a wonderful kindergarten teacher. She'd take us for every day. We would walk around the block.
And
We'd
she
go
would
take
take-
every kid would get dressed. We'd pass by all the stores. You weren't allowed to say. My father's store was right over. You weren't allowed to say hello to him.
No, but
because-
the reason she walked was she knew that the kids' parents had stores, and as she walked by, she got free merchandise, like the police getting free apples. Really, not too dumb.
But all the kids were fine. I mean, it's a neighborhood school, so all the kids were like from a
The kids
3-block
were from
radius or so.
The makeup. Tell them about the makeup of the community.
Kids were mostly German, Italian, Czechoslovak, Irish. A lot of Irish kids. Some Jewish kids, but not very many.
So was this called
My best
Yorkville?
friend here was Walter Baldesti, who was an Italian kid, and another kid named Eddie Fizzaceri, who was Czech. There
And
was,
it was a completely integrated neighborhood. We had blacks
we had
here,
black
too.
kids living
And,
here.
and you know, we were so integrated that we take pride in knowing that we were beaten up by every ethnic group in the country, living right here in the city.
No Puerto Ricans.
No Puerto Ricans.
Except for
They started coming later on.
Hispanics were not here yet. The congressman here for this district was Vito Marchi, about whom I wrote my doctoral dissertation. It was a wonderful neighborhood.
Julia Gilliam, who was a baseball player for the Dodgers, lived right up the block here.
Right, he grew
And
up here.
Tony Curtis.
Tony
Tony
Curtis
Curtis?
lived on
No.
74th Street. Bertie Schwartz, his father had a tailor shop. He lived
That's
on
right,
74th
that's right.
Street.
Yeah, right,
Yeah.
right.
And we went down, we went to Seward Park High School, which was
Way
take-
downtown.
Way downtown, yeah.
We take the 3rd Avenue L down to school.
So what about
in the
cultural
morning.
life in the neighborhood?
The cultural life, we played ball.
We played games. We played ball in the schoolyard. We played stickball in the streets. Played stoop ball. Stoop ball was like a game where you bounce the ball off the stoop and you tried to game. Played ring alivio. Kick the can.
I used to do something that I used
Johnny and a pony.
Johnny
that
and the
was
Pony.
it. That
Oh,
was
here
the
comes,
game.
Here comes
That was the
street
game.
person.
It's okay. Turn off the camera.
Alan did. I used to run like a wind. I was like a very, very skinny, short, speedy person, and I used to tie myself. I used to run around the block. You don't remember me? I used to run around.
You used
the
to
block.
also. You had a bike that you used to go on bike trips with. The other thing we used to do, because where we are standing is like equidistant between the East River and Central Park. So we would culturally, like, we spent a lot of time at the Museum of Metropolitan Museum of Art, and down toward the East River was a park called Jones Memorial Park, and we would go swimming. There was a swimming pool.
Yes.
That was built after. I don't think you went there much, but
No.
I went there.
The other
there was also Jones Memorial Boys Club.
Yeah, and of course the other thing we used to do, our parents used to love to go to the park, and we'd walk up to the park and in the evening.
The
listen
Golden
to the
Concert,
concerts.
Edwin Franklin.
And my
Golden
father loved
concerts.
to, Grandpa loved to go on a boat and paddle on a boat on Sunday.
There's in Central Park. We go
Central
rowing
Park.
in the park.
Yeah, remember
But
that?
the park was a big resource for us because it was in the summertime.
This was a
These
nice
buildings were so
neighborhood.
hot that you really had to go outside. We slept outside sometimes on the fire escape.
Yes, yes.
We put out a blanket and a mattress on the fire escape. We'd sleep outside, and it was really fun growing up here. It was
Yeah.
not. We were not really desperately
No.
poor. We never really.
No, and even
We
when
never
you were
really
poor,
wanted for anything.
gum was a penny a stick, and you'd get a big Hershey bar for a nickel.
Frank remembers you could, for a quarter on Saturday, you go to the
Delicatessen there.
and you'd have like hot dogs.
Two
and
hot dogs
soda.
with sauerkraut, cream soda, a plate of potato salad, and have enough money to go to the movie and see a 3-hour movie with
a
cartoons.
festival of cartoons,
Right.
Action. That,
And you could see it again if you wanted
adventure
to.
stories.
Yeah.
Practically lived there. The movie theater was on 74th Street around the
On
corner,
First Ave.
right opposite
First Avenue.
the Greek Orthodox Church.
It was on First Avenue.
There were two movies. There was one on 74th Street, right between 2nd and 3rd.
Yeah.
So, did you have any crime? What was did you ever get into trouble
No.
with the
No,
police?
oh, a house got robbed every now and then, but
Well, our house only got robbed once or twice,
yeah.
I remember. We got into trouble once because Frank and I once went to, Frank and I with some other friends, I don't know why, we went to, there was a big Woolworth store on First Avenue, and we robbed about $40 worth of toy soldiers.
Yeah.
And Pop found out, and he made us the worst thing that could happen. He didn't hit us, because we didn't get hit very much when we were kids, but he made us bring it back and apologize.
Hardly ever.
I got hit once when I said something nasty to Mama.
Yeah, but all Dad had to do was look at us.
Yeah.
You know, rarely ever.
But other than that, I mean, we never got, if we got beat up in the street, it was not crime, it was ethnic. The
Yeah.
Irish beat up on the Jews,
But the beat up wasn't
Italians
really
beat up on
much.
the Germans.
Being beaten up.
I got beat up once here for political reasons, because I
What
was
about
like
your
a-
nose, though?
Well, yeah, I was coming home one evening, and two boys of Irish background, I think, just had bought a mail order set of brass knuckles, and they held me and they smacked my nose, and it's still broken to this day, really.
But they
If
were
it
just-
wasn't for that,
But they were just trying them out.
take a look at that profile.
But also,
I
remember
could've
when
been.
we grew up here, this was the 1930s, this was a very German neighborhood.
Yorkville.
This was
Yeah.
Yorkville. This still is Yorkville. And Fritz Kuhn, and there was a guy named Joe McWilliams,
Yeah.
who were Nazi leaders, really, in the United States. So
And
we
they
would
struck.
walk home from school and hear the worst kind of anti-Semitic bullshit about Jews. And
Not
we had to deal
not
with that.
directly.
Well, from some of the kids directed us, but not much. German was a required language in the school here. When we went to junior high school, we had to take German from Mr. Amder, remember?
Yes.
It was a requirement. I
Mrs.
learned,
Amster. Mrs. Amster.
no.
I had a Mrs. Amster, and
Yeah,
in
there was a
8th grade
Mr.
we went to rapid RA
classes.
RA classes.
Maybe that.
I
But,
still
but
have-
German was a required language.
Yeah.
There was German up on 86th Street, which is not far. It was all German. Hunt Jägers, where the American Nazi Party met, was up there, and it was all German. You could walk in stores there where no English was spoken at all. German Bush stores and German bakeries, Vienna Cafe. Some of those are still there, of course.
It was really
but
a
culturally
marvelous
it was a
place to
wonderfully
grow
mixed
up,
place,
and,
yeah.
and I regret the fact that you grew up in a more sterile environment. I think you would have been much better.
It's your goddamn fault.
No,
You
they
left.
wouldn't be better. You'd be different. not
You'd be
better,
different, but I think you'd be
Yeah,
better.
but we'd be talking like this, you know.
I
You'd
think
just
you'd be
be,
better
no.
prepared for the way the world is today.
They're doing okay. Don't knock the kids.
All he has to do is press the
There's
red
his
button.
history.
What does that take?
But anyway,
It's
this
your
was
camera,
this
it's
was
not
really
mine.
this was really a wonderful place to grow up. Because the reason we didn't have much as kids, but that's because Pop really had to spend a lot of money taking care of his mom, I think.
Yeah.
And also Pop was cheap in those days. When I went to college,
Very cheap.
When I went to college, I started out at Brooklyn College. He gave me $1 a week. That's all he would give me.
When I
And
got
that
out of the
included,
Army-
that included car fare, lunch, books, everything.
When I got out of the Army gave me $50, and dismissed me. And Dad says, let's go and get a suit. And he said, really? He said, yeah. So we go downtown. I try on the suit. I like it. And he's sitting around and waiting, and I'm sitting around and waiting. Finally, I got the message. There's no free lunches with my dad. I bought my own suit.
When I was married the first time, Pop came. The wedding was out in Queens. Pop gave us a wedding present, which was a $100 wedding present. But he deducted for the rental for his tuxedo, and then he deducted the camp fare. So it ended up with $62 and change, which he gave us very proudly.
A lot of money.
It was. It was a lot of money. But my wife could not. That did not start the marriage off well.
But you know, I don't think Alan or I ever asked for anything from our parents.
Yeah, I don't think we didn't feel deprived. Let's put it that way.
Never asked for anything.
We had
never.
clothes.
It wasn't a give me time anyway, you know. And but we had never asked because I probably assumed there was nothing to be given.
Frank got a bike, which I inherited. Although I could never ride the bike.
Yeah, it was a silver
It was
bike.
a silver two-wheeler, and I tried getting on the bike when it was on its stand once inside the store, and I fell off, cut my lip. That was the last time I got on a bike.
It
I still can't ride it.
Was a hot
I still
bike.
can't ride a bike to this day.
It was the only gift. The only gift.
But you remember
growing up
once
that I
you
could
took
ever
me,
remember.
you took me all the way from here down to Wall Street on the back of the bike
Going
to
for
buy
stamps. Stamps, right. We were collecting
And
U.S.
I was terrified. He had done it before. I'd never done it. I was holding on to him for dear
I
life.
fell once.
Going
Were you
through
there with me when a
yeah,
bus
yeah.
hit me? No.
Going through traffic on this New York City traffic on a two-wheel bike with the two of us, I was terrified. I'd never been out of the
We were
neighborhood.
pretty good at it, though.
You were good. I was just scared. But I was going with my big brother, so it was big time stuff to me. And going down to Wall Street, even then I knew Wall Street was an important place because you bought stamps there. Frank was a stamp collector.
I was collecting U.S. plate blocks before, and I had a marvelous stamp collection. It was really worth money. I went into the service. My dad decided he would store the stamps for me. He put them in the basement, which was damp. And when I got back from the service,
They were eaten by rats, and they were ruined.
They weren't eaten by rats, but they had damped, and they were basically ruined. And I was using expensive stamps just for first-class mail, putting glue on them. And
Yeah, but he had a collection probably worth a small fortune.
Oh, now they would have been worth a good, maybe $40,000 or $50,000 to me.
But Pop was strange.
Well, no, he meant well.
He meant well. He put
He
it in
didn't
the
know
basement.
that what dampers could do.
Yeah. Okay, this is the firehouse for the neighborhood, and right to the right of me here is where our school was. This building was built in, 1881, and it was rebuilt in, around 1904. And this is exactly what it looked like when we were kids growing up.
Dad, stop.
And when they came out of here, they come out with bells ringing, not with those crazy siren sounds. It didn't scare the hell out of me. Hey, Cameron, Mike. But this mine is yeah, this was up there. That was the thing. And when the guy jumped off, they bought him in that. No, but it's incredible how that this has not. This those are. You notice something else?
You moved away from your umbrella protection.
That's okay.
That's right. The first Frank. Phil, see the fire escapes over there where they joined the two
yellow
buildings
and the red
together.
house?
Yeah. That's the way we made friends. You met people in the next building. Everybody was out on the fire. In the summertime, you'd live out there, literally.
I've taken a
These
lot of pictures of these.
apartments- No, they were apartments. In some of those, there's two apartments, one in front, one in back. And we would have. Okay, now this is 3rd Avenue looking north, and on this street, this was the 3rd Avenue L. Ran. This is the train we used to take down going to school every morning when we went to Seward Park High School. Right, and that building, the low building over there, is the Metallic Lathers Union was in there, and that's exactly the way it was when we were kids. The buildings on the corner there, the red, white, and green buildings, is exactly the way it was, except it wasn't colored like that. But this neighborhood, this street marked the demarcation point between the rich people and the poor people, because everybody east of the street where we're standing was basically lower middle. Those buildings, that's the west side of 3rd Avenue between 3rd and Lexington. That's where the rich people lived. And we didn't have any friends. I didn't know anybody there till I was about 15, 16 years old. And I knew one person who lived in one of those buildings. And the first time I walked into his house, I couldn't believe that people could live like that. Because for me, that was such wealth that was like a whole... Yeah, this is Carnegie. But these are But with that, this is philanthropy. Think how much cooler our lives would have been.
Yeah.
This is the library where we used to come to Children's Hour, remember? And Mrs. Frank would read us stories. And I went here first with you when I must have been about 4 or 5 years old. And I used to take out books on your card.
Mrs. Frank
and then when I
would
got
read
my
the
own
stories?
Yeah, that's the woman.
Read
yeah,
the
that's,
sign.
yeah, I saw it. But when I could take out books on my own card, it was like nirvana. That was utopia for me. And I'd take out anything. I just went through this place like I read anything that I could find that I thought might be interesting to me. But this place was only 4 blocks from where we lived, and we could walk here any time of day or night. And encyclopedia. I mean, it was like a wonderland. And places like this for poor kids who didn't have anything were just absolutely wonderful. Just wonderful. Jane would take, even if I could afford it, which I can't. Buildings for sale next year. When we were kids, except I think the building at the corner was not so big. I don't remember that. But our doctor, Dr. Jacobs, lived 1.5 blocks from here, right down off 2nd Avenue on 79th Street. Yeah.
Let me see now the buildings across the street are essentially
The same. The same. It's only the ones at the corner that were, yeah.
the facade.
It's only this is newer, I think. Yeah, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, this is right on 79th Street, right opposite where the public library was. And this was another one of the taste of...
Yeah, they are. They're moving down.